Newzroom Afrika's Linda Mnisi has been following today's proceedings. He's live in studio. Linda, good evening. The resumption of this all-important trial. Before we get into what came out of that cross-examination of the witness, let's start off with this request that was brought to the court yet again by Kelly Khumalo's lawyer. And this is really so that they can be watching brief in this matter. It was declined before and again today. Why has it resurfaced?
Well, Kathy, today we're learning that Kelly Khumalo's lawyer wants to come back and be admitted and be allowed to sit in court as watching brief, and also wants to gain access to the court documents. Here I'm talking about, the two dockets. We know the 636 as well as 375. She wants the contents of that docket, those dockets rather, as well as transcripts from previous bail applications. Those are some of the documents that she wants. But the concern, once again, rising from the defense as well as the state that, the witnesses that are going to come and testify will be doing so in the presence of Magdalene Munsami, who is the lawyer for Kelly Khumalo. Now, they're saying that Kelly Khumalo has an interest in this matter and is a potential witness. Now, that has an impact on other witnesses, and that is why we saw that request by Kelly's lawyer being rejected today. But also, one of the things that was raised, Kathy, was how, they brought this request. You'll remember they spoke about a letter, and usually, as a legal professional, Magdalene Munsami would know that the communication in court would be through a proper application, which would be furnished to all the interested parties in order for it to be taken up by the judge. But it was rejected, the judge upholding the previous ruling made on this matter.
All right. In fact, Linda, I understand that we've got a snippet of part of how that unfolded earlier on in the court with the defense lawyer, Advocate Mshololo, speaking quite strongly on this issue. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
We further make the point, my lord, that her situation is also distinguishable from where a watching brief represents a client who will not be requested to testify. For instance, where the watching brief is merely observing the proceedings, and we say her situation is different because her client will be called upon to testify. And we're making the point that in light of the fact that her client might testify that it is undesirable that she should sit in the proceedings. That, in brief, my lord, are our submissions.
There is no prejudice that will be suffered by Ms. Kelly Khumalo if her watching brief is not allowed in this court. Instead, the prejudice will be suffered by the accused before this court. Because in other words, she's demanding to have information before she comes to testify, my lord, which is not allowed in law. Above that, my lord, this case is broadcasted, my lord. That on its own has compromised this trial because they are watching. They know exactly what is happening in this court, but we have no control over that, my lord. Above that, she still wants a legal representative for herself to come and sit here. For what good reason, my lord?
All right, so you heard the Advocate Mshololo and, of course, Advocate Baloyi on behalf of the state. So, Linda, let's get then into the continuation of the evidence of Tumelo Madlala. He, of course, was a witness that was much anticipated, having been one of the individuals in the house, but also being a close friend of Senzo Meyiwa. What kind of day did he have in the stand?
Well, we saw a very irritable Tumelo Madlala at times, Kathy, talking about, the statements that he deposed in this particular matter, not wanting to confine himself to, the times at which certain events took place. You'll remember the issue around when exactly the intruders entered the house came up. In fact, earlier in his testimony, and he was asked about when exactly the intruders intruders came, because initially during his evidence in chief he pointed out that the intruders came at a time when they had just finished watching football. It was a match between Manchester United and Chelsea, but he was questioned around what time exactly, when did these intruders enter? Was it during the match itself or after the match? And he says, well, he does not know exactly when, but he knows it was post the match and wouldn't confine himself to whether it was at night or late afternoon.
Mpumelelo Zikalala is a legal analyst. He joins us as part of this conversation. So, Mpumelelo, how much of an issue is that going to be? The fact that you have this witness who, as Linda has said, does not want to talk about very specific detail, and in some instances is pointing to the time that has passed as a reason for why he can't be held to specific facts here.
It's going to be very difficult. Let's remember that what they are trying to do in court is to measure the consistency, hence the accuracy of the evidence it is given. Now, if you are able to poke holes as to the accuracy and the sequence of events, the chances of him being branded or being declared that is a witness who is not truthful is going to increase. And it's going to jeopardize the case and the proof beyond reasonable doubt stance which is being required by the state. So it's certainly going to have an effect on things which are going to happen and the manner in which then the court is going to evaluate the evidence it is given. All that is required is that you answer accurately, and make sure that you are consistent in the answers that you are actually giving.
Linda, when we look at his cross-examination, what are the key issues that he was specifically asked to deal with? I remember a time this afternoon, where there was frustration expressed that he was being asked the same questions over and over again in cross-examination.
Well, it was the issue around time, and where at times he would be asked to, estimate on when exactly a certain incident took place. But he was also, Kathy, you'll remember, asked on the ID parade that he took part in, and the lawyer for accused number 124 reading a statement which points out the fact that he couldn't map out during that ID parade, the second intruder, and therefore was asked about how it is then that he came to identify this intruder in court. Now we're talking here about Bongani Ntanzi, the second accused in this particular matter. The lawyer, or the defense lawyer, putting it to him that in fact it could have been that he saw him on TV, and that is why he came to court rather, to point him out. But he said that he does not necessarily follow the media, he does not necessarily watch television, and he knows exactly that Bongani Ntanzi was there on the night of the shooting. He couldn't really remember the color of the jacket that he was wearing at the time, but can certainly say and was adamant that he wore a jacket that had a hoodie.